I might be falling deep. 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 Tell me now what you need. I'll be very too good. Whenever I leave my life, I might be falling deep. 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 I might be falling deep.
Welcome back to our podcast, Red Flags and Roses. My name is Jenny.
Hi, I'm Sonya from BTO.
On the boards today, we have Nick from BTO, and our special guests today are Leah and Daniel. Yeah, welcome to the show, our first couple, actually. So, they're filmmakers, community leaders, and most importantly, domestic violence advocates. So, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So today is our first interview with a couple. So let's start with you both sharing a little about yourselves and what your superpower would be.
Superpower. You can go first. No. Yours would be talk a lot, but go ahead.
A little about myself. So I'm an artist, writer, creative, and just want to make a difference in the world. And I feel, you know, we all have our born date and our death date, and then we have that little, you know, hyphen in the middle, right? So for me, it's important of what that hyphen is. And, you know, I'm called activist. I don't consider myself that, but community advocate for sure. Father, husband, all that good stuff. Superpower is I've learned a certain amount of patience, just enough to not blow my top. And I think being able to tolerate her is the biggest superpower ever, because it's just tough, you know? So
you're doing all right.
And I'm starting to show that way. So yeah, now we go. Red flags and roses.
Yeah.
Clearly, he's shown you my superpower, because it takes a certain kind of person to be able to deal with him. Anyway, I am too a creative. I'm a mom of 3. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm an educator, an avid traveler. And my superpower would be, I just have a keen eye for great things.
And this is a great moment, indeed. You guys make such a beautiful couple, and wow, like just to be in your presence, it's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I think if I had a superpower, it would be to like pick up on people's emotions and like be able to vibe off of that. What about you, Sonya? What would your superpower be?
To turn my nails into nachos and then eat them, and they'll return. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, you know what? That's a valid answer. Moving on, Nick, why don't you tell us the hot topic of the day?
So yeah, today's hot topic of the day is polyamorous. What are you guys' thoughts on polyamorous relationships?
Jeez.
You know,
TMI.
definitely for them. No, just kidding. I think
I'm not.
whatever works for you. Do you, whatever works for you.
That's your answer?
That's my answer.
You don't have anything spicy to...
I mean, do you want to get into it?
So I am fascinated by the idea of it. I'm fascinated by the lifestyle. I admire the amount of honesty that the couples that's in that are able to share, right? Because I think in relationships, people say, oh, I want honesty and no lies, and I want transparency. And it's like, I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if you want all the honesty, right? And so from what I have talked to people that's in that, it's just brutal honesty. But it's free flowing. So if we're together and it's like, hey babe, you know, I'll see you later, I'm going on a date tonight, Now, there's different levels where like there's different levels of different in different relationships where it may not be like the graphic details when I come back home of what happened, right? But it could just simply be she knows that I'm out on a date, right? And that's openness. But in a regular relationship, that just doesn't fly. I got to tell her where I'm going, who I'm with, when I'll be back, what car I'm driving. She needs to smell me when I get back home. And it's just like, so, cheers to all the polys.
Shout out to Polly.
The big P.
It's different for everybody, just like how relationships are different for everybody, right? So what if you guys had a children and they were into a polyamorous relationship? Would you support them? Because in our generation, this is something that's very more accepting, I think, more accepting than like what was accepted during like the previous generations. So if you were to raise a kid and they were involved in a polyamorous relationship, would you support them? And if so, how?
I think for me, just with anything, my thing is always whatever you're choosing, be safe, right? It's nothing I could, it's not, I mean, everybody don't come home. That's for certain, right? Everybody does not get to walk through this threshold. Like, you'll figure it out, but everybody doesn't come home. And whatever you choose to do, just make sure you're safe with it. I can't say don't do it.
I mean, that's the cleaner version of what I would say. So we'll go with that. I had something else. We'll save that for like red flags and roses after dark. Exactly. It's confirmed. Yeah.
All right, well, what about you, Nick and Sonia? What are your thoughts about polyamorous relationships? We belong in the new generation, if you would.
Well, I guess I would challenge that. What does it mean to you? What does polyamory mean to you?
I guess for me personally, polyamory definitely does go along the line of like trust. To be able to hold that kind of intimacy willingly with multiple different people and share their boundaries of what intimacy means as well. Because intimacy might mean something to me and it might mean something completely different to someone else, to another person. That's just one person. Then saying, okay, I am also open to understanding and growing into the definition of intimacy with another person as well and their versions of it, and then kind of maintaining your sanity through it all, emotionally, physically, mentally. I think it definitely does take a lot of courage. So shout out the polys out there.
Yeah, they're the real MVPs. If you really want to, I mean, salute. I mean, hats off. I don't have a hat. Hats off.
We should try it.
Ooh.
Let's see how long your hat stays off.
All right, guys. So is this the end of the show?
Definitely going back to Sonia's point about like having that trust, it definitely takes a lot of commitment and time, because just being in a relationship, just one person is already difficult enough. Like that communication and like the time you have to dedicate to each other. Now add on another person. That just like feels like it's even more challenging. But if that's what you're into, then yeah.
I think it's also kind of like interesting to emphasize like polyamorous does mean like it's not just being in a relationship with multiple different people, but being in a relationship with multiple different relationships, in a sense, and understandings of that relationship. So you might be, let's say like you are in a heterosexual relationship, that's one relationship. And the next relationship is a bisexual relationship. And then the next and that's just one form. That's just like one kind of like, not categorization, I think that's not necessarily the best word, but one kind of understanding of how a relationship can work. Then you have one where it's like their love languages, like our love language is touch, all right? But then another one, our love language is strictly spending time with each other. And then the next one, our love languages is strictly giving gifts to each, you know what I mean? And it's like now you have so many different processes of intimacy. And I think like it's not even, and then also you probably have a relationship with one person who's like, all right, this is just us, and then another one where it's like, all right, but I got my bro too and my friend, and then they got their friend, and now you in the whole family tree, and it's like just so many different aspects. Because I think it is kind of important to emphasize, like, even when we think of like polyamorous is so poly that it's kind of hard to
Put it in a box.
exactly.
Right? I do like what you said in terms of intimacy, right? And everybody has an idea or their own version of what intimacy is. And I think for some people, most people, they misconstrue intimacy with actually having sex. And it's not always about sex, right? It's just that deeper connection. It's that chemistry, you know? So I like the way you put that part.
But there has to be honesty. Otherwise, it's just, just messing around. And it's not about sex at all. Like that, and I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions that I've heard from people that are in it. Like, it's a different, deeper level of understanding.
There's definitely a lot of misconceptions about like polyamorous relationships that society is now exploring and like trying to understand better. So we're heading towards a better direction, if you will. And speaking of transitions, let's talk about relationships now. So how long have you guys been married? And can you guys like share a little bit of your first experiences with each other? Was it love at first sight? What was it?
He was definitely loving on a kid at first sight. We've been married.
How do you say that though before you answer?
Easy. I did. We've been married. How long we been married?
Too long.
You right.
But like,
answer the question.
Almost. The guys never answer this.
You
right.
got
so this
it.
is a setup.
I have complete trust in you. You have
Almost
this.
12 years.
Okay, when will it be 12 years?
Next week, May 29th.
Okay, so almost a little
Right.
week and a half. You got it. You all right.
Okay. See, I like.
Now
my
here's
bed.
a trick question. How long have we been together?
Way too long.
I agree, but that's not what they asked.
23, 24.
Okay.
I said 23
Yeah.
because I think that doesn't count
Okay.
because I was actually entertaining poly, but it wasn't a label of it.
Bye,
And
boy.
The idea was I thought I was trying to like figure it out, but I couldn't put my hand on it. Now I'll be much more prepared. If we were to start over, I'll be much more prepared to like indulge in poly, right?
So
But I
funny.
think at the time I was ahead of my time.
I guess we both were, and so when I was calling you,
no
asking you,
guy ever wants to hear that.
I'm calling you like, yo, what's up? What's good? You
Okay.
busy?
I know.
Oh, okay. I am gonna go check my homie out.
Next question.
And who was blowing up the phone?
Red flag.
Oh,
Gross. Jeez Louise.
Okay. So, you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. But was it love at first sight? I mean, we were in high school together. We were in debate class, and I ended up writing her a note. And as corny as it may sound, and like cliche now, and I think people probably just slide in DMs, right? But I wrote her a note like, "Will you go out with me? Yes or no?" And I think she circled maybe or something smart. She got a smart mouth.
I wrote maybe in circle.
You know what I mean? Like I asked you very specifically, yes or no. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. So, and in hindsight, that should have been the
a red flag for you.
a red flag back then of like,
Yeah.
damn, this is what I'm getting into, you know?
Yeah.
But we often overlook things, right? And they're all rosy. See how I did the play.
No, but the way you guys communicate, like, that's something only couples can do. Like, if you guys were just strangers on the street and that happened, it would not turn good. But, like, the way you guys are communicating, it's, like, very healthy, and you guys address issues if there are any. So, applaud you for that.
Thank
And
you.
our next question would be, together, you have a podcast titled Wet Locked and Loaded. Okay. How do you find the courage to be so open together? And how do you turn your trauma into beautiful art?
Do you want to answer?
I usually,
I'm just letting you. You know what I'm saying?
I'm literally trying to learn.
Oh,
to-
to be quiet.
That's not what I was
Oh,
going to say.
I'm sorry.
But I'm trying to like be the background extra.
That's
Yeah.
not easy for you.
She named the podcast, by the way, so I have to give her the credit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got to give her the credit when it's due.
I think just being together for so long. Well, a few things, right? So, people that are typically around us, they're always like, you guys need your own show, right? And never really was like my thing. Like I was always private. I liked my relationship to be private. But I think I got to a point when I was like, you know what, I'm actually open to this idea. And that's just, we've been through so much, some in public, some not so public. And I think that just the things that we've been through, people don't necessarily talk about it, right? And they don't talk about actually working through those issues. And I just felt like it was time to actually put that forward.
And my asterisk to that statement is, you know, she had talked about it a while ago, and I just feel that we were still in a space of repair, and it was still like a sensitive, there was a lot of like triggers, right? And what I didn't want to do was have a podcast entertaining the public, but then the house is burning down. And so our detriment is everyone's entertainment. So I put it off for a while, and I'm like, you know, because we would like, I started it, and then she adapted to it, which I have a problem with. But I would go into where I wouldn't speak. Like, I just would stop talking to her. And at first, it bothered her, and she was like, you know, how? Then she started adapting it, and so we would go literally, we live in the same house, sleep in the same bed. We would go like a week without speaking.
That might be a bit much.
I feel like longer than that.
No.
I mean, we would say like, you know, bye or see you later, but we wouldn't talk. So, you know, and it was a situation we could have, during a pandemic, we got cast for, it was a reality show that this doctor was doing. And it was interesting. And it may have been interesting, but I think just my experience in music and entertainment and film got me to the point of asking certain questions, right? And so, you know, questions of like ownership and perpetuity and, you know, back end or percentages or any of that. And the answers she was given was just really like, no, that, I mean, you know, I'm like, you know, and I thought it would have been a great thing for Leah because this, I think, was at the turning point of her being a little more open. But, you know, my mind just works, and, you know, and I see Nipsey on a wall, like my mind works in more of a ownership, equity kind of space. You know what I'm saying? And I believe in bartering, but I don't believe in just like, here, have everything of mine and do what you wish. Like, I'm past that point. So, you know, that's where the podcast came from. And all of our years of therapy, now every couple feels like they're ready to go to therapy, that they are vulnerable enough to go to therapy, that they need therapy. So what we wanted to do was have a show that's entertaining, and we talk like friends. So even the way we're talking now, like it's, you know, you have some married couples, it's like very, you know, and you won't even discuss poly in front, you know, it's like, you know, so we wanted to intertwine the entertainment, the therapy tools that we learned, and just try to like merge them and give it to people, that things that could be helpful. So that's the point of the show. We want to just be helpful and not just, you know, be silly all the time. Even though like a lot of times when Leah's interrupting me when I'm trying to make a valid point, it's just like, damn, like you ruin it, you know what I mean? She steps all over my, you know. So
how do you guys juggle being in a relationship while also pursuing a career?
I don't know if we do. You know.
It's a difficult question.
You know,
I think after a while, it just comes natural, right?
Yeah.
Like you wake up, forgive me, but it's like Groundhog's Day every single day. Like, you know, you just got to get up, and you know you just have to do certain things, right?
Yep.
I think just being able to have open and honest dialogue with each other, it also helps, right? But we just do it because we have to. You know, we have to go to work because we need money, right?
Yeah.
The way society is set up, right? Like having one stream of income or one person working don't really work that way, right? Like we got a household, we got kids, like oh, we got to go get this money and we need to put our money together and we need to figure it out. And
so it's more like a learn as you go type of thing.
It's more like a go as you go type
Yeah,
of thing.
because you gotta go. Yeah, I feel it.
But to that point, I think Leah now, and it's beautiful to watch, right? But now Leah is leaning more into the business of her, right? And I think it's a matter of like I think when it comes to like looking at her, like when she's figuring out like costs, because she does event planning. She reupholstered a couch on New Year's Eve one year, which was ridiculous. She does hair. She makes baskets and custom, edible treats and all types of stuff. But actually seeing her break down, like, okay, well, if I pay for this and then this, what's my profit margin and blah blah blah, and and business cards, and then like LLC, and just it's really just beautiful to watch that, because I think before it was a lot of like go and kind of do it on the side a little bit sometimes, and may not really make any profit, but I love doing it.
I always made a profit. The problem was, anything that I did outside of my regular 9 to 5 required me to bring in product into the house. So he is a true Virgo, true and out, right?
Shout out to all the Virgos. And when I say,
so I'm talking. I'm talking.
Nori.
I'm talking. So the problem was that the product and during my creative time and space, it wasn't always neat and tidy, right? So like that was an issue. Like right now my house is a mess. I'm getting ready for a few events, and there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of packages being delivered. It's a lot of things happening. But as I grew, he grew, right? He's no longer complaining out loud anyway, right?
Yeah, I suffer in silence. Red flags and roses. Yeah.
So
I just try to, she hears me. I mean, depending on what it is, like if I'm walking in the house and I trip over a box, that just doesn't help my day if I'm already frustrated. So I might, but again, I think she hears, and I fundamentally believe that things have a place. It's not a matter of me walking around the house with a white glove on and checking for dust, right?
he does that too,
That's not the case. But I'm a person where like my car is a reflection of me, in a sense of, if I see anyone and it's like, hey, you want to ride? I don't have to be like, hold on 1 second, and you got to take a bunch of socks and cashew nuts and
so don't do
plastic
that.
water bottles and throw them. Like, you can just get in, you can sit down. It doesn't smell like feet. It doesn't smell like gym socks.
Sir, it's also sounding like you're implying that my car.
No.
Oh, okay.
Just
I just want to make sure
red
that we get
flags.
that very clear.
So, but again, to put a button on it, I think that the entrepreneur part is something that we have done for a long time, and our kids have seen it, and so our daughter lived in that and absorbed it, and so she, at the age that she is, it's her story, but whatever. I'm not fun. So she, right? Well, she's 25, right? Mm-hmm. Royalty.co, that's her business. And so she's a certified esthetician, licensed esthetician. She's a certified lash technician.
She's licensed everything.
And she also does makeup, and she has her own actual boutique shop at 25, right? Which is like, even in the worst of our days where we're like frustrated, we're trying to figure it out, or if we're trying to, steal from, what's the saying? Rob Peter to pay Paul, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, we'll look, and she actually has her own business that she's going to, and she has her hours, and she has clients, and it's like, wow, like we did that. You know what I'm saying? So without our struggle, and you just think about how many parents, And it's no knock on other people, but how many parents just get up and go to work and come home, get up, go to work, come home, and there's no entrepreneurship and ownership in the air.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's just a real living testament of the hustle that we have, and also being open about it. Because our parents never were open about, you know, filing taxes or being audited and having to pay money back, and what that feels like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think the openness of the mistakes is just as valuable as showing what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, I want to know, can y'all share an experience where y'all encountered red flags?
Together or
Separately, individually, you feel me?
it just happened when we walked in the door. Right, babe?
You're right.
I know.
Go ahead. You still like
Red flags to get
They don't gotta be together. Just, you feel me, in general. Any red flags?
I think red flags. I mean, there's probably a bunch. I think one, you know, I dated someone who would say often, you know, you make me happy. Like, when I'm not with you, I'm not happy. And at the time, it's like,
Ego booster, but
Yeah,
then
but
it's
like,
like, let's delve deeper.
you know,
Why
it's
is
like
that the case?
Like, I mean, that's ultimate red flag, right? But at the time, it's like, or I'm trying to. I mean, that's probably one I could think of.
My red flag, definitely, it was my first high school boyfriend, and I would be at his house. Of course, I have curfew, and he would, whenever like, oh, I'm about to leave, he'd be like, oh no, like, you know, stay, whatever. And I'm like, dog, I gotta get home. Like, I don't want to be on punishment. But he would leave, and he had a lock on the outside of his door, and he would literally lock me in his room. And I would sit, and like, his sister, he had sisters, and they would sit on the outside of the door and talk to me until he came home.
What?
But I couldn't climb out the window because he was up in the attic. So yeah.
That just, I mean, even hearing that, like, that just sounds wild.
Nah, yeah, that sounds ridiculous.
crazy.
And so to take it to another level, not only was that happening to her, but his sisters clearly, like, that was normal behavior.
Yeah.
So they're like talking to her on the outside the door like she's
Like
a little
it's regular.
dog.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, slipping, or a prisoner, you know? And so I can't
know. I don't
imagine
know.
what
I
they
can't.
have.
I can't. I mean, we grew close, and I don't. The sisters and I, and I don't know. It was he didn't do that to anyone else.
I
Like,
don't know.
just in conversations with the sister. I mean, they would tell me a whole lot of stuff, but it was never like, oh, he does this to
You don't think he
this
did
and
it to
this and this
Afton?
and this. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what it was.
That's just wild.
Honestly, yeah, like red flags, they can be they range. Like, some are small ones, like X, for example, and then there are like some big major red flags where it's like help needs to be sought out.
Yeah.
So like, with your red flags, how long did it take for you to like realize? So like, it was after some like deep reflection, or was it like someone on the outside telling you like this behavior is unacceptable and things need to change?
I think for me in that particular case, he was my boo. He was, but
No need to get all mushy about it.
once he started saying like, I could chop you up and put you in this closet and nobody will ever find you, I was like, yeah, you know what?
Red flags and roses.
This is
No
this is a
roses,
lot.
just red flags.
This is a lot, you know. This is a lot, and I think a lot of it too was like, he never raised his voice at me. He never hit me, right? But I think it was just a matter of just that control, that manipulation. He was a few years older than me, but I think it was just like he just wanted to have that control.
It was kind of like an obsession, sort of.
Yeah,
And like, going back to what you said earlier about having someone say that they're only happy when they're with you, it's like kind of obsession, because it's like, why can't you be happy without me? Don't you have your own life? Because
obsession and depression, you know, and self-esteem and the whole, you know, and I think the stuff like that is way more common than people talk about. you know, and I don't know whether it happens with more young girls or young men. It might be equal. I don't know. But like those type of comments are said a lot, you know, with like, oh, you know, you make me happy. You complete me, yada, yada, yada. And it's just, you know, those are definitely red flags. And whether they're red flags for you to run away from the person, I can't speak to. However, they're red flags for a person to be aware of and to take note of. And I think the biggest thing with red flags, in my opinion, is when you ignore things constantly, then it manifests in other things. And I feel like even in our relationship, you know, as an artist, and I say this, and Leah's like, you know, there's the reality is artists, whether you're a painter, whether you are an actor, whether you do music, like artists see the world a certain way. And artists just think a certain way. Now, Leah's an artist also, but in a different way, right?
Everyone's a different artist.
She's creative, right? And she produces in a different way, but her, you know, for lack of better terms, like Martha Stewart, right? And how Martha Stewart will do stuff in crafting and like, you know, a fashion designer putting stuff together. Like that's more Leah's bag in a certain sense. She could do whatever she wants to think about doing. She'll do it. Me, I'm more like, I can't walk into an empty room and see the possibilities of, oh, you know, if you put a wall there and you put shelves there, and if you knock this wall down and add, I don't have that type of foresight, right? However, I can hear a song and create what that's going to be. Or I can hear a story and be inspired and then recreate and do something else. And so I say all that to say, coming up, everything about being an artist was selfish because it's me. So everything I do or don't do dictates my next thing, whatever that is. But in a relationship, everything in a relationship is selfless. So it's a matter of turning that off when I come home. And it's not a matter of, I'm not taking the trash out. Do you know who I am? But it's in a matter of like something that I used to do that for me made sense at the time. But now that I'm older, it's just like, yeah, it's kind of wild. But I would do, you know, I would have shows and she would come to some of them. It wasn't a prerequisite that Leah had to come to all of my shows. I didn't, that wasn't a thing for me. Some people are like, oh, you got to come. It's just like, because I always wanted, I use this loosely, I always wanted like the real fan or real reaction. I don't want like the
forced reaction.
I don't want like the you know.
Oh, that's my dude. So I'm gonna give it up.
Or like the American Idol, people are awful, right? And they're like, oh, and then they get backstage and they don't make it, and the mom's like, oh, they just don't understand you, baby. You'll get them next time. I don't want that. I want the real. Like if I'm gonna get booed, I want to hear it.
Facts.
Right. So, you know, Leah would come to some shows and we live with each other, so we would go to the show together, and I would get off the stage and I would shake hands with people and hug people, and Leah's like, here, shake hands, hug, shake hands, skip right over her, shake hands, hug. In my mind, it's like, yo, we just came together. Like we live with each other. Why, you know? But for her, it's like, really, you just walk past me and I'm your biggest supporter and you're just gonna ignore. And so that happened a lot. I didn't realize the damage that was doing, and it kept being like scabs. Like, you know, it was starting to heal and then you pick it off again. Starting to heal, pick it off again. So, you know, and there's, you know, me taking pictures with people and like being flirtatious. Like for me, it was cute. However, publicly, it looks a certain way, right? And that's the artist and the selfish part. But home, like I'm paying for that. And I always make jokes like, damn, like the stuff that I did that caused issues at home and massive like repair that I had to do, I wish I would have actually done what was assumed that I did if I'm already paying for it anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like doing time for robbing a store, but you didn't rob the store. I just went in and just asked them, hey, you know, if I hypothetically
robbed the store, what'd you do?
You know what I mean? So yeah, I had to do a lot of paying. I'm still paying. Right, babe?
Trust is earned, definitely.
Yeah.
It's earned and spent.
Sounds like you have something to say about that.
So here's the deal, right? No, and he just spoke all truths, right? Except the fact that if I really believed that lines were crossed in that way, you wouldn't have to be paying for anything. You would just be on your own figuring it out. Like, I didn't believe that you were robbing the store, so to speak, right? My problem was, it's just you're not creating boundaries. And I think that goes a long way in any relationship with your parents, with your friends, with your cousins. Like, boundaries need to be created and respected. And when those boundaries weren't being created, what it was allowing people to do on the outside was disrespect our union, right? And as a wife, as a girlfriend, as a fiance, for me, I just didn't like the fact that if I react based off your disrespect, it's going to look like I'm this crazy, insecure woman, right? So don't put me in that position. So that's what you were paying for. Got it?
In the words of the great Sean Carter,
Okay.
if I shoot you, I'm brainless. You shoot me, famous. What's it gonna do?
Yeah.
The streets is watching.
They
Red
are.
flags and roses.
Yeah.
As y'all speak, I was recently looking into, I don't know if y'all are familiar with Carl Jung. He was a Swiss psychologist, and one of the theories he came up with was the understanding of the shadow self, and how to truly become harmonious within yourself, you have to integrate that parts of you that you don't really find to be so acceptable. And while y'all speak, it flows. Like, you guys can joke with each other, you guys can openly discuss the parts that may be painful that a lot of other couples can't speak about. And that takes in my opinion, a whole lot of healing, and I commend y'all genuinely for that, to be able to just speak about it and be as like loving as y'all are with it. A question I had to that though, in general, in a sense, is what do you all feel is the importance of healing before love? Like, do you think you need to heal before you find love, or do you feel like you can just find love and heal in that, or just what would y'all say on that?
Or even better, love heals.
Yeah. So, I mean, there used to be a thing that they used to say, the way to get over a relationship or the way to get over a man is to get underneath another one, right?
They only said that in Roxbury and your friends, because I never really heard that. Like,
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, that's not a thing a lady would ever really say.
So that's been said,
Just putting that out
right?
There's some truth to it.
That's been said, right? Now, for me, I feel like in order for you to fully be invested, and that's to be in a relationship, like, you need to fully be invested, not only in that person, but more so in yourself. The only way that you can give yourself and be true to yourself is to actually heal. Right? So you can go get up underneath Tom, Dick, and Harry if you want to, right? But you're going to still have all that baggage, but some of those bags are going to be empty. They're going to be heavy, but they're going to be empty.
Like, there's this thing called like phantom pregnancy. They go through the whole situation, and it's not even, they come to find out there was never a baby in there.
Yeah.
The belly grows and all of that.
Yeah.
And that's real. Where would you say that comes from? Like, do you feel like that's something that they develop on their own, or is that something that actually is, like, is there some reality to that phantom?
To the phantom? There is some reality to it. So from my understanding of the actual phantom pregnancy, some people, they are actually pregnant, but they lose the baby, and they lose the baby in utero, and they still go through that whole process. Then there's other cases where it's literally just, it's
In the head.
I want to say something, but I can't. I don't think. It's in the head. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a mind trick. I can say that. It's a mind trick.
It's a mind trick. Absolutely.
Yeah. Where your mind, like, you're really, like, something in your brain is saying that this is happening, and it makes your body really react that way. Yeah.
Okay. So what are some ways you guys heal yourself before getting into a relationship? Before, yes. And while too, because that's also very important, because love is always growing, it's changing, because people change and grow.
I mean, it's tough because it's I think this same question is gonna be answered differently to, a new relationship or two people who were divorced and found new love. For us, like we were growing up
Yeah.
and figuring things out. And even though there's a beauty in meeting young and growing up, I'm still on a fence of what I would prefer, right? Because just think about your child, you grow up with your parents or one parent or grandmother or whomever, right? You grow up, you have rules, you have curfews, you have things you can't do, and make sure you wash the dishes before you go to bed, and this, that, and the third, and don't touch the soda. If you touch it, you got to replace it. Then you finally get on your own. You have an apartment, you go to school, dorm room, whatever. Then you meet someone and you move in with them. And then you might be a person where you put the seat down all the time and you put the cap on the toothpaste, and your person leaves the seat up and takes the cap off. And you have to like figure that out. Then you have children, and then everything you grew up understanding and believing and holding on to, this person's the opposite. And so now that happens, and it's just constantly like, and not to mention your career goals and everything you're trying to do in life and the struggles that you have. And if you're, the feeling of a black man walking outside and just society, that feeling, that's, or a black, like, so it's all these things that you're learning, but also trying to learn and understand and have tolerance for someone else, and it's just like, that's a lot, and people make it look easy, but it's a lot. And so, I think the healing together is definitely, therapy, and just because you're in therapy doesn't mean I feel like I'm ignoring you. I'm sorry.
No, you good.
I feel like the just because you're in therapy doesn't mean it's a good therapist. And just because you're in therapy doesn't mean that you're using your therapist appropriately. And we got to the point where things was good, or we felt like things were good in our relationship. And when we had our therapy sessions, we would talk about like frivolous stuff, right? And like the whole session would go by and nothing was really
resolved,
addressed, right?
Yeah.
And those things would manifest later for different reasons. And so, I think that there's a million books, and there's a million podcasts, and there's a million YouTube videos where people are experts and blah, 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 right? But I think life experience is the best teacher. And I think if you lead with kindness and understanding, you'll have a better result. And for me, it's a matter of trying to make her smile every day in some way, right? And trying to do something kind for her. Now, whether she receives it, because, again, the Roxbury laying under a new person.
I hate her.
You know what I mean? Like what wife says that? You know what I mean? On camera, no less.
The thing is that when I learned about that, I was not a wife.
Sure.
I wasn't even your girlfriend.
Sure.
So,
I've seen those group texts.
You have not. Anyway, the way that I heal, even now, and back then, and it's not a matter of just being in, a relationship or a marriage, right? Like sometimes I just have to be done with all the people around me, right? Because y'all are just you're weighing me down. I hop on a plane, I go to the beach, and
Travel.
I am.
Don't encourage
right?
that.
Why?
No, because it's like the world's so big, you're so small. What are you living for if you're not exploring the world that
You
you're?
can travel and go to the beach in the Cape,
So no, that ain't the same.
Revere Beach is actually a really nice beach. Shout out to Revere Beach. It's so underrated.
Only someone from Dorchester would say that.
I'm from Roxbury.
Yeah,
Home of God.
can't tell. Not the way you be dragging it.
This question, I can't do.
But yeah, so that's where I find my inner peace, my healing. And I think that people fail to realize that it's really important to take time for yourself, right? So when I am at the beach, looking at that glorious turquoise water with the soft powder sand between my toes, I'm connecting with self.
Or brown water.
No, I don't do
Shout out to
that.
Revere Beach.
Yeah.
It's so underrated.
Yeah.
I do massages. I was supposed to have one yesterday, and it got canceled. But you know, either that or I'll do a float. You know, if you've never done a float, it's unbelievable.
Float therapy.
Yeah, unless you're claustrophobic, it might be a little tough.
Slow tough.
So it's a pod, and it's salt water. It's warm water, and it's salt. It's like 10,000 pounds of salt or something like that. And so the moment you got to take a shower and wash up before, and then you get in this pod, and you have the lights off, or you can have it on, you know, and it like strobes, and you get in the water and you float. So you can either be like this, or you could do this, or you can do like a fetal position. But like it's unbelievable. And you can either do 60 minutes, 90 minutes. I've never done 90, I've only done 60. But I'm doing that down the street.
He can do that
I'm literally 30 minutes from the house. I do a 60-minute float. I wash up. I come home. I have a little bit of salt in my ears. I come home and I'm loving on her. She goes away for 10 days.
Why are you so mad?
She goes away for 10 days and then she extends it and goes to another place, which is that. Talk about red flag in a relationship. Oh, that was a bad thing. Now, she did it as a result of something that I did.
No, I did it.
But she still shouldn't have done that.
Listen.
Again, in the words of Jay-Z,
the
Sean
red flag
Carter,
you just did.
I know the way living was whack, but you don't look back like that.
Huh.
I'm a man with pride. You don't do like that.
You do, right? Because for me, I'm an educator, so I can teach you better than I can tell you.
No.
So learn this lesson, baby.
Jesus. What's the next question?
All right.
No, 'cause I definitely want to comment on that, like, because y'all seem to have y'all have a really go as you go. Not even
told you
go with the flow, but go as you go. It's interesting though, because like you said, when you have dealing with yourself or learning how to love yourself is one thing. Learning how to love yourself with another person is another thing. Learning how to love yourself for another person as well is also, because I think and I've never been married, so that's, you feel me? But it's interesting because I think in all of the conversations I've ever had with married people, or any ones that were open for it, it was kind of like there was multiple reasons to love yourself and love the other person. But then add on top of that, a child comes into the play, and this is a whole nother life. This is not just like someone who understands the world already. No, like your relationship is a direct influence on how they perceive the entire world. Where would y'all say you have children, or?
Yep, we have children.
Where would you say your children like not necessarily stand per se, but what kind of impact did they have on the way y'all perceived self-love and the way y'all perceived the love y'all have amongst each other?
Oh, our kids are screwed. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding. It's funny. Like yesterday, for example, my oldest and our youngest and our oldest, she was helping him. He had to do a project for school, so he had to make some food. He had to cook, and so she was helping him. I don't know. As a mom, I was like, this is so dope. And they hate when I re-record and all that, their interactions. I am an only child by my mom, so like I didn't have that growing up. But anyway, so my son asked. He goes, like, what's it like to be with the same person for so long? And like, when you guys first met, was it love at first sight? And I was like, heck no, it wasn't love at first sight. I think they see us and they somewhat get this like ideal situation, like they feel like it's an ideal situation. I feel like because we tried so hard not to like argue in front of them and you know what I mean, like have big disagreements in front of them, they didn't really see the struggle. They may have felt some tension, but they didn't really see like the actual struggle. He asked, he's like, so when you guys first date, he asked a question about his first date and I was like, oh, when we first started, I didn't really take him serious, and he's like, well, why not? And I was like, he had a lot of fans, right? And
what
so,
does that mean?
boy, you know what it means. He's like, oh, like, he had different girls liking him. I said, yeah, pretty much. He goes, my man, right?
Oh.
And he was like, I guess I get it honest. And I'm like, it's okay to be liked, right? You know what I mean? But don't think that it's okay to play with people's emotions, you know?
Definitely.
And I think for him it's just a little bit different too, because he's finally like coming into himself.
That sounds wild, by the way. So
growing into him. There's no right way to say it. So stop it.
I was gonna say, but I
There's
don't
no
know.
right way to say it. So stop it.
I
Stop
know,
it.
I
Stop
know.
it.
Wow.
This is a very pure conversation. So let's keep it that way.
No,
Thank
it's
you
not.
so
It
much.
didn't start pure.
It's very pure.
All
But
right.
anyway, my daughters, on the other hand, will, like my middle daughter, she would say, our middle daughter, sorry, it's such a terrible thing to do. Our middle child would say, I want a man to treat me the way daddy treats you. Right?
She said that?
Yeah, I think she was sleeping on some other stuff, but
Aw.
yeah, so
See, that's the
I think you know, they see us hugging and kissing on each other, you know what I'm saying? Like they see that love, right? So I think for them, they will be okay. And then in terms of like not bringing anybody home, like my oldest, I'm like, she'll be on the phone and she'll be talking, and I'll be like, who you talking to? And she'll be like, oh, you know, she like my friend. And then, you know, it's a guy, right? And so he, you know, he'll be like, hey, man. I'm like, yeah, I'm not your mother. Like,
Yeah.
but then I'm like, well, what's your name? What's your parents' name? Where you from? And she's like, you got to stop. Like, she's like, this is why I don't even bring nobody home. But I'm like, well, why not? She's like, well, at the end of the day, we're just talking, right? Nobody's good enough to come home,
You taught her that.
period.
Yeah. So like a parent's
Don't
love.
look at me after
I
you say
will.
that.
A parent's love is especially important in like a child's life. It's like the first thing you see of what love is like, and that shapes like the rest of your life, because that's where you're spending hopefully your 18 years per se. And speaking about love, what's your specific love language towards each other?
We haven't taken a test in a while, so
In a while.
It changed.
I will say it's changed. For me, I don't know about you. My love language for each other.
And while you guys think about that, what about you, Nick? What's your love language like?
Man, it depends. Really depends on
Depends.
the person. I'm not gonna lie.
Give us a little bit more context here now. Yeah, a little bit more context.
It differs. I mean, for me, I would say like physical touch. You feel me? I don't know why. It's just like me personally. I just like feeling loved by my partner. If that makes sense.
And do you think you got that from seeing the way your parents love each other, or?
I don't really. I mean, I think I got it from how my family really loves each other. Like my family, we hug each other. You feel me? We greet each other with hugs, kisses on the cheek, stuff like that. So I kind of developed that from like how I was brought up.
Okay.
Which is interesting, right? Because I can see that and understand that, and that's your upbringing. And Leah, on the other hand, is a person.
So they didn't ask you about me.
Yes, she started.
She's asking you about you.
Yeah, I'm
to
gonna
me.
get it to me in one
Oh,
second.
okay.
So I'm with a person who, you know, in a stereotypical societal standpoint, I am like the female in a relationship.
More feminine.
And what I mean is like I'm the one that's like holding her and like cuddling with her, right? And she's the one that's like this, right? When you see it on TV, it's usually the guy that got his hands in his pants and like and burping, and the woman is like holding them and trying to, you know, or going to see a scary movie. Now I don't, you know, jump and hold our arms when we see a scary movie. Like that's where the line gets drawn, right? But I think for years, words of affirmation was mine.
Still is.
We went to no, it's not.
Trust. Go ahead.
We went to a marriage retreat a million years ago, and the guy that was there said, you know, I don't know if he said a lot or most. I feel like he said most men, they are words of affirmation, where we need to hear that constant, the praise and appreciation and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And women are often either quality time or physical touch, and people can be hybrids. So I was words of affirmation. I feel like I've changed to more physical touch, but yeah.
We'll go ahead and retake this quiz when we get home.
Yeah, we'll retake it and see. Because that'd be interesting. I think we might be hybrids, though.
We always were. I think for me, like, if I'm answering this question correctly, because I'm not certain, definitely quality time. And I am now, like, before I used to be like big on giving gifts.
Gift giving.
Yeah.
Okay.
But now I just want them all. Like, just give me.
Like, I want to receive now.
Like, give me.
My turn. Okay.
But I want you to give me what I want, not what you think
I want.
Okay.
So do you like drop hints or
All the time. Sometimes. Sometimes.
Doesn't that sound like an awful way to live? Like,
It's not.
As a receiving, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the result. And so you talk
So
about
here's the
parenting,
thing. No.
Like,
so
as
so
the
wait,
only
hold on. Time
child,
out. Time out. Here's the thing, right? Like, I'm not verbal with all my hint dropping. Sometimes I'll come home and be like, here you go. It's like, it's my turn now. No? Okay, I'll wait. Here you go. Here's something really nice. I saw this and I thought you should have it.
Okay.
So do you like $100 bills tied to balloons?
I like money. Yeah.
Do you get that?
No, I don't get
From the
it.
video.
Oh, so I figured, I'm like, I like money.
That was dope.
I like money. That was me that did that. I like money.
So she decorated the set for the short film.
Yeah. I do.
Creative genius in the house.
Like I said, I like money.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's a trip.
One of the reasons we had to have you guys on the show is because of the release of your new music video, "Cry for Me." We heard that there's a short film connected to this song. Can you tell us a little more about that?
So yes, and again, for anyone, I don't expect, just because I'm kind of dating myself, but they're on the wall, right? So Jay-Z released "Streets Is Watching" 1,000,000 years ago, right? In the great year of 1900s, as Charlemagne always says. But it was a long form music video, right? And like Michael Jackson did it with Thriller too. So it's not like no idea is original, as Nas says. This particular song, I wanted to write about domestic violence and sexual abuse and just control. But I didn't want the song to be so dark where, like, when you heard it, you felt like slicing your wrist and jumping off a bridge. Yeah. I wanted people to be able to, like, replay it, and sonically it can sound light, but then you'll hear certain things like, wow, that's disturbing. Red flags, right? But I wrote like a long form music video that ended up being a short film. So it's like 20 minutes and 1 second. And I knew that I wanted the visuals to be a hyperbole of what I was saying. I wanted to be extra exaggerated, extra, putting myself out there being a monster. I wanted people to hate me after it went off, right? And so, I think Leah did an amazing job of, some of the stuff honestly was real, I think, drawing from real places. And so the part in the video with the headphones, that comes, in my opinion, that comes from insecurity. So, we are having a moment, right? And Leah's phone rings, and in the short film you see more context. When the music video is just quick. Yeah. But she gets a phone call, she interrupts our moment. I feel a way about that. Right. And then she comes back, and now I'm not interested in engaging. And so now she's trying to engage with me, and now she gets mad that I'm mad, which is a real thing that has happened with us forever. And it drove me nuts. And we will both do it. If she's mad, I all of a sudden get mad because she's mad. And it's like, how silly. And we do it all the time, right? But it's just like, how silly is that? For you to be mad that I'm mad, right? But then
it's
that
called
just
being petty.
Yeah. And
that's what it is.
And it's definitely like petty Pendergrass. But but when she pulled the headphone off and then slammed it and then walked off and slammed the door, now that just took that thing that for me wasn't that big of a deal, but it took it here. Yeah. Right? And so everything just kind of spiraled from that. So you mentioned like the balloons and the money, you know, that's a version of gift giving after you assaulted. And that happens, you know what I'm saying? Which is all part of control and all
The
that
I'm
stuff.
sorry.
Yeah.
The expensive I'm sorry.
It'll never happen again. And
Yeah.
and I just wanted to be I wanted to write something that was real and not real, authentic and not I 100% didn't want to have any gratuitous violence. I didn't want to have any blatant violence towards women on camera, right? Because I feel like it's more powerful when you think something it just happened. Yeah. Back to like the Alfred Hitchcock approach with the way he would write films, right? And I love Saw, but I didn't feel a need to have any scenes of me physically putting my hands on Leah, or you see me pulling her panties off, and like you don't need to see that part, but you can see what led up to it, and then you hear her screaming, and then the scene cuts, and you know, even in the video with the bruise and me covering the bruise up, for me that's just such a sinister thing to do, because you would typically expect a man to kiss the bruise or say I'm sorry, it'll never happen again, but for me to like cover it up is like yikes, you know?
It's like sending off a message where it's like, I'm not really trying to change, but I don't want you to leave me either, so exactly. I'm gonna change how people see how we are, so that I keep you close to me.
Right.
Okay, exactly. I see. Kind
of like, oh, that's just a reminder of don't step out of line again, or, you know, just do what I say. Yeah.
And it's, you know, in the conversation, and I'm glad that we were invited, you know, and I think Casa Myrna just had a breakfast yesterday, right? And it was their fundraiser. So I was fortunate enough to be there, and it was an unbelievable experience, and just to be in community with people who are trying to fight something that is so prevalent. And this crosses, you know, age ranges, social, economic classes, race, gender, sexuality. Like this is, you know, the reality is I've just come to the conclusion, like there are predators, right? And for me, it's a matter of being very intentional and drawing a line in the sand of where you are. And so similarly to, there was a time in the past where you didn't know what people's politics were, right? You wouldn't discuss politics at work or in school. I think we're past that now.
People are less conservative.
And for better or for worse. I don't know if I really need to know that you are in support of Ron DeSantis and you identify as, you know, they, right? I don't know if I need to know that. However, if you are a deadbeat father, we can't be friends.
Right.
If you beat on your woman and like do it constantly and use, you know, I was high or I was mad and she shouldn't have, we can't be friends, right? And I'm vocal about it and unapologetic about it. And so, you know, there's certain things that and obviously the violence happens male on male, female on female, you know,
it happens in every relationship.
It's cross-gendered, right? Yeah. But I think that for me, it's a matter of being intentional and saying, look, these are things that we can do to try to mitigate this happening. It breaks my heart when we spoke at the Freedom House recently, and, you know, someone shared, and it's like, damn, like too late. You know what I'm saying? And so I think it's a matter of certain things that we can do. And I'm speaking as young men who, you know, may be physically stronger, right? That can, if you drop off, you know, say you and your friend go to a skating rink, right? And you take an Uber, you let her out, and she goes to her door. Wait till she gets in the house and closes the door before you drive off. If someone's waiting for the bus, don't just send them on their way. Wait at the bus stop with them. You know what I'm saying? Those are like little tangible things that we all could do collectively to try to mitigate the predatory behavior. You know what I'm saying? So my goal is to try to talk to young men in particular, because I'm often hearing so much time and energy and resources put into the victims and survivors, which is needed. But I want to try to not have so many. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
I mean, and I think that's what everything that you said was great, but you're more so talking about the predators that are on the outside. You know, we can't negate that. They also live inside the home sometimes, you know? So that needs to be spoken about as well.
Right. Needless to say, the message is for everyone, because everyone could be put in that situation and roles can be reversed at any time.
At any time.
And you want to make sure that people are learning from the best. So thank you. Let's
back to boundaries, which you said earlier.
Yeah.
It's having those lines and boundaries.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, thank you for that deep conversation. And now let's switch it up a little bit.
Hey.
So we're going to play a quick game called Red Flags or Roses, where I and my co-host read a statement and you're going to tell us if that's a red flag or a red rose.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yep.
No explanation, just red flag or red rose.
Yes. And we can come back later to it if me and my co-hosts want an explanation for it.
Okay.
All right.
If you need an explanation, babe, this is like when we play.
Bye.
All right, let's get started. The first one is expecting your partner to pay for everything.
That is a rose.
Red flag.
Okay. Sonny, you're up.
Big red flag.
Someone who compromises 100% of the time.
Red flag.
Red flag. Yeah.
A partner who tells you what to wear.
Red flag. It's okay. You can let them know I do dress you.
Oh, knock it off, Leah.
I make strong suggestions.
Red flag without going into too much detail.
Okay. Not sharing your passcode.
Red flag. It's a red flag.
Damn.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's either.
It's a red flag.
I think that's a
We can come back to that.
That's a floses.
You know what?
That's a red floses.
Yeah.
Red floses.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
Thanks.
Sharing your location.
See, that's a rose for me, right? Because that's a safety thing.
Yeah. So first of all, we have Androids, and so we don't.
Anymore.
So we have Androids. And so like that's not really a thing. Now, if we're going out, we're definitely saying like, hey, this is where we are, where we're gonna be, or whatever. But like that location on the phone, I don't keep my location on until I need it for the GPS. Like that's the only time I turn it on.
Enemy of the State.
That's what it is. It did. It did.
Saw that movie. Will Smith and Gene Hackman. It's kind of tough.
Okay.
Long story.
Someone who works too much.
That's a red flag to me. I think there has to be a balance. Like it has to be.
That's tough.
Is it?
I'm gonna say. I mean,
it's not a rose because
it is a rose. It could. I don't know. I defer to you.
No, you know you're entitled to have your own opinion.
I call it a flows?
That's not an option.
That's your maybe.
And you know what? There's maybe because red flag, it's red rose, they're both red. So there's.
Are you all really doing this for him?
That's a
It's a proper explanation because it's red.
I think it's a flows.
Yeah.
It's a flows. Yeah.
Okay. The next one is being extra friendly with the opposite sex.
Yeah.
Or a sex you're attracted to.
That's the part.
No, wait.
The
That's two
sex-
separate.
no.
Wait a minute. You can't just throw that out.
The
What are we
sex
talking
that
about?
you are, because you might not be attracted to the opposite sex. So the
Right.
sex that you are
Yeah.
attracted to. That's the
That's
proper.
the question.
That's the
Right, that's the-
question.
I was ready to answer it a different way now.
Yeah. No. It's definitely a red flag. We've talked about that. The extra friendliness. You know, I call it. Let me tell you what I call it. I call it sprinkling false hope. Sprinkling false hope.
Do you have to be sexually attracted, or can you just find
That's
them attractive?
exactly what she. Regardless.
Is sexually on that card?
Attraction.
See,
So here's the
Attraction
thing.
anyway.
I learned in being married to her. I gotta ask specific. You know what I mean? It's like I'm throwing all these older references out. It's like Menace to Society when Kane was in a room and the cop is like, you don't now, right? So yeah, attracted. Like I don't. I mean, that's fine. Sexually attracted, like you should be mindful. And
what do we talk? Go ahead.
All right, so I'm gonna repeat it again. Be extra friendly with the sex you're attracted to.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a red flag.
Red flag. I like my bed.
Okay, moving on. Sonny, what you got for us?
Splitting living expenses 50-50.
That's definitely a
rose.
red flag.
That's a rose.
It's a red
Shout out to
flag.
Gabby. I love the conversation that's being circulated.
Yeah,
I'm loving that.
I'm gonna tell you right now.
I can't wait to talk about this at home too.
Yeah,
I know.
that ain't happening.
I know. It's definitely a rose. I mean, like big rose. Smell
If
like
we bring in the same,
the colorful. You see the colorful roses, like the blue ones that like the rainbow roses. It's one of those roses.
It's not even red.
Yeah.
if we come in home with the same amount of money in the pot, different story.
Oh.
But when you are worth 24 times more than I am, baby, please.
Doesn't matter. Love is
I'm
love.
gonna pay some bills. I'll contribute,
Love is love.
but I ain't going 50-50
Love
because that ain't love.
Okay, yeah.
See? Red
Disagreement.
flags and
Let
roses.
me tell you something. So if we don't work, you make 24 times more than I do. You bring home 24 more times than I do, right? And I'm throwing that out there,
Yeah.
right? Because I don't know that exact figure. And then tomorrow we don't work out. Dog, what am I leaving with? Like,
That's true.
I'm gonna be completely broke
That's not true.
while you sitting on a
Be frugal.
cushy. I can if I'm giving you 50% of my $4.
That's not.
Gotta
Man,
make sure a relationship helps you.
We'll save this for red flags and roses after dark. This would be the lead in before we get into the poly stuff.
That's a big
Anyway.
Definitely.
50-50 conversation is a huge one.
I think if we're coming to the table with the same amount of money, like if we're bringing home, figuratively close to the same amount of money, and absolutely, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But if you're making a whole lot more, then no.
But see,
I'll
that doesn't
contribute.
go both ways. So
I will contribute. But it does. So speaking of the people, right? Because what she said was when she was in her previous relationships, she was the breadwinner, which meant she took care of everything.
Yeah.
Now she treated him like a
Poorly.
but that's a
Poorly.
whole different story,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Nick, what do you have for us?
Someone who puts their career or goals ahead of their relationship.
Red flag. Well,
That's tough.
it is
I mean,
tough.
I think it depends on the type of. So I know you guys said no explanation.
Now you could go.
I think it depends on your relationship, right? Like for me, and I feel like for both of us, right? Like we want to be with each other, we want to spend time with each other, but we also are very mindful of saying, hey, yo, I understand, I support you. Like I'm not gonna pigeonhole you, I'm not gonna keep you stuck because I know that you want to grow. So go ahead and grow, but also make sure you make some time for me, right? That as long as you're not being selfish, it can benefit all of us,
And
right?
back to the quality time part. So if you're doing all the grinding and all that stuff, and then the time that you do have with the person, you're on your phone or you're falling asleep while you're watching a movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Then it compromises the quality of it,
Right.
and then it becomes a problem. But it took us a long time to get to.
Not us, you. Yeah.
I'll take that.
In it together. Okay. The last one is walking away from an argument.
Absolutely. Rose.
Yeah, Rose.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that being said, let's jump back to our previous statements where you guys had some disagreements on.
Oh, did we?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
The first one being this like figuring or like this planning what you're wearing, like what the other person is wearing.
I mean, we joke about this all the time. Telling the people what to wear, That could be a red flag, actually.
Red flag?
I mean,
Yeah.
I think, it can be controlling for sure. I mean, I guess it depends on
How it's
what we're talking about.
yeah.
Right. And if it's something, it's the age old example where it's like, oh, honey, how do I look in this dress? And you look like,
Not good or
well, I want to be descriptive.
Yeah,
'cause
don't
I'm
do
an
that.
artist. So say,
So she gave you an
the
out.
muffins,
She gave you an out.
the muffin
She
can that
gave
be in
you
the
an
fridge,
out.
and you open it, it pops open. You know what I'm talking about? And you look like that. And you be like, oh, babe, how do I look? Am I supposed to lie and be like, oh, babe, you look scrumptious? Or am I supposed to be like, right?
I don't know about that one.
Shout out to Pillsbury. But I think that's different versus like dictating. You know what I'm saying?
Like, I laid this out for you.
Yeah.
Where
You gotta wear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like Prince, who was great. I think his girlfriend had to like come to bed fully made up. Like that was like a reported thing. They had to come to bed with makeup on. I said that to her one day jokingly, and it didn't fly.
I'll tell you what would be a rose in that situation. If he packed my bags and said, babe, don't worry, like we about to be out, I got you. And I'm like, oh, I gotta pack clothes. No, I got you. Or I'll take care of it when we get wherever we're landing. That's all roses. See, that's my hint. See, I'm trying to drop that in there.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, so you guys said walking away from arguments. So why is that a rose for you guys?
So I think for me, my mouth can be very, very reckless. And
Project.
it's same one you was from. But anyway, I think that it's important to realize that, you can say things, and clearly when you're having a disagreement or you're not really feeling your person, you're going to say things specifically to hit below the belt, right? You can't take that back, right? They say, they used to say sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me. The reality is that words do hurt. They hurt a lot, right? And so it's best, and also on top of it, it's best to walk away before those things are said. But not only that, you can't come back from that, right? Like, those are your feelings. You said it because you felt it in the moment. They're your feelings. You can't come back from that.
I agree.
And you're not hearing each other. You're shouting over each other. So I can't hear you because I'm too upset with you. You can't hear me because
You're upset with
me. So we just having this pointless conversation. We losing our voice, throats going dry. Like, what's the point? Nothing's
Also,
being heard except for the hurtful stuff.
But both of you have to be on the same page about that, because she was better at that than me, and she would say, let's talk about this another time. But then to the other person that really wants to talk and get this out, then that's even more frustrating, because it's like, and so
it's just that communication piece. You feel me? Letting each other know.
Yeah. Take a walk, read a book, write it down if you really got to express it. You know what I'm saying?
go do a float, go get a massage,
Record it on Snap and play it back. See how you really feel later.
Friends, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Catch a flight.
In the words of Nipsey, the highest human act is to inspire. So, talk to one of your poly friends, get some inspiration, feel better, go home, you know what I mean?
You can't get no higher than flying on a plane, baby.
Well, I would
not
love
wrong.
to say our podcast aims to teach people how to have healthy relationships. Question that comes to mind is, in your opinion, what does a healthy relationship look like to y'all?
Laughter
Yeah.
and kindness.
Kindness, definitely. I would say nothing is ever going to be perfect, right? You are two human beings, if you're into monogamy, that have to come together, right, and figure it out with each other. So you're going to have some disagreements, and that is also okay, right? As long as you are not physically harming your partner, as long as you figure out how to a way to communicate effectively, right? Not just communicate, because we can all talk, but like it has to be effective communication. That works. That's what makes it healthy. Having an understanding of who you are and who your partner is and who you are together, that's what makes it healthy.
Well said, babe.
I know.
I mean, you know, I've said that so many times on our show.
Bye.
And I think you finally.
You did all right.
Thank you, babe.
Okay. See, he needs words of affirmation. Did you see that?
Oh my God! Listen, guys.
And do you have anything to add on to what Leah said?
No, I mean that's, you know, I think for me, what I and my uncle would say this a lot: peace and harmony in the household, and he would always say that, and you know, I'm like, yeah, I hear it, I get it. But I think when you finally get it and it clicks, and I think even people hearing me say that are just kind of like, oh yeah, that sounds good. But peace and harmony in the household. So whatever that means, whether that means, you know, your mom is causing, you know, disruption, or your friend or your aunt or your job, whatever that is, like you need to figure that out. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think we are friends. And so even when, because I do believe in relationships, you sometimes fall out of love. And I feel like that's okay. Mm-hmm. Right. But if you're respectful and you still care about that person and you're both committed to it, you can figure it out to get back to a space. You know, so never stop having fun and laughing, and without saying something so crazy, but like, you know, maybe at 11 o'clock at night, you both get in the car and, you know, go explore Boston and display a little PDA, right? When everyone's in the house and the law's not driving around, so you don't get arrested, because there's laws against that. But you keep that exciting the same way as if you were trying to date somebody.
You always date your man.
You know, she puts on a red wig and it's like, Sharon, Stephanie, Melissa, Tanisha.
And there's your Polly.
Yeah. See? It's all full circle. Red flags and roses.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to say this was
That's an interesting point. You want Susan on a Tuesday?
Yep.
Yeah, this was a good episode. I'd like to thank you, Daniel and Leah, for being on our episode of Red Flags and Roses. Where can people find you online?
You can go ahead. You know.
You want me to say for both? Because I'm good at this. All right. So for Leah,
okay.
For Leah, Contour Creations.
Contoured Creations.
I was getting ready to say.
I understand. Go ahead.
Jeez Louise. You do your own.
No, you got it.
So for me, Daniel Laurent. My website, DanielLaurent.com, DanielLaurent, or on Instagram, Daniel Laurent SME, or Black Dollar. That's my company. Look that up, blackdollarus.com. Find out about that. Also our podcast, Wedlocked and Loaded. Mm-hmm. If you search it, it's on platforms and you'll come to the pages. Search engine optimization is kind of crazy and I'm proud of it. So yeah.
Yeah. And as he said, Contoured Creations. Right now I'm just on IG. And you know,
you're not like
that's
selling
it.
Yourself.
I told you I'm not into that, right? You either want it or you don't. That's it.
I got so many comments, but we'll
that's it.
You either want it or you never mind.
And I appreciate it if you do. And I also appreciate it if you don't.
Okay.
Right,
thanks everybody. Thanks everyone everyone's here on the podcast. I learned something new. Communication is make it effective. Don't just talk to talk, because then you're not trying to get your point across, and that ruins the whole time that you've spent on the other person. So thank you for that lesson, and thank you everyone for being here. And
thanks for having us.
Thanks for being our first couple, by the way.
Wow.
First but not last. Thanks for that. Yeah. All right. See everybody.
You set the bar, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And y'all need to do follow-ups. And so when other couples come, you check in on them in 6 months, see if they're still together or not. And then I'll determine if you air it.
Okay.
Shout out all the Polys out there.
And we'll see you in the next episode.